Dr. Hoda, thank you so much for joining us on AI Trust Talks today. It's an honor and a privilege to have you here with us.
It's such a pleasure to be with you here, Emma. I think it's a hot topic and we need to tackle it.
Thank you. So to start us off today, can you give us a bit of a background about yourself? You've been working on incredible research projects. I'd love to hear more about it.
In a nutshell, my name is Hoda Alkhzaimi. I'm a professor in NYU Abu Dhabi. I lead a group called embed, which is specialized in emerging markets, emerging technologies that lies in the spectrum of crypto, security, AI, and other technologies as well. We build hardware and software and prototypes around those kind of systems with my PhD students and master's students as well. I'm also the Associate Vice Provost for Research Translation Entrepreneurship for NYU Abu Dhabi, which means taking what we do in basic research to market. I work as a consultant on a national level for advanced science and future economies and different portfolios in this. I spent the first 12 years of my life in sovereign wealth fund trying to diversify UAE economy away from oil, focusing on major, I would say, advanced industries that you see in the market today in UAE, which was such an honor and pleasure to work with the great team on this. On an international level, I'm part of different advisory boards on AI safety with the UN and as well with the ITU in emerging markets and emerging technologies. On the World Economic Forum, I was chairing the Global Future Council for Cybersecurity. And at the moment, I'm a member in the same council. It's such an honor to work with the body of grander kind of collaborators on different levels on making not just technology work, but investment work when it comes to advanced industries.
You've got such an incredible background, and I love hearing not just the whole research side of things, but the actual getting it to market, which is such a key point when we're talking about AI today. So what's the most overlooked investment opportunity in AI right now? Why aren't we seeing it?
So there are many, I would say, in the field. The most overlooked opportunity, I think, focusing on application market and focusing on use case development from different micro markets that exist in the world. We're so much, I would say, hung up on the fact that we want to focus on advancing LLMs and maybe focusing on specific technologies, on most of them in the spectrum of software development and algorithmic development, plus the current hustle on a global level as well in between NVIDIA and other hardware developers for AI, which shifted AI development and hardware from a chip kind of question to, I would say, a memory clusters question on how to build optimizers and accelerators for AI hardwares. But if we focus on the application level of AI and the use cases that can come from African market or from Asia market, or from all micro markets around the world, then the value that we could develop for AI for humanity is really, really tremendous. From an opportunity market, I think we are overlooking massively the critical need for building trust models on top of those AI. Most of the AI infrastructure that came into deployment and mass use in different jurisdictions around the world, they had a quick access to market because of the necessity that existed around them, and the amplified necessity that existed around them, which lead us to the issue that we have at the moment. Almost 50% of AI users don't trust AI systems, while in the market of technology kind of development, if you asked anybody who's using a technology, they would tell you maybe 76% of a trust that did exist in the market. So there is a bit of a gap in between how much of AI technology we trust today, and that's because of the massive scale of the nature of this technology. We're talking about hallucinations, we're talking about false positive implications, we're talking about as well the fact that the reliability structure around AI system is only 30%. The lack of maybe investment in bringing more trusted artificial intelligence models into the market across the bandwidth of different interdisciplinaries that are being developed is leading us to miss a lot of investment. And a lot, I'm saying, we're talking about a gap of over 40% of what we can introduce into the market.
Very relevant conversation for AI Trust Talks here, so thank you for that. And I want to touch on, what do you think is more dangerous, AI that lacks trust or an investor that assumes it?
Oh, wow. I think on both spectrum, they're very dangerous in today's market. If you have an investor that assumes a trust combined with AI that lacks a trust, then we have a very lethal weapon that we're putting in the hands of the mass users here. Trust cannot be overlooked in any technology ecosystem, especially today, We suffered, I think, for the past decades from the lack of governance infrastructures that are institutionalized in technology. And because of this, there is a lack of global custodianship towards making sure that any technology that's being developed, I'm not just talking about AI, is actually secure and reliable and trustworthy. Because there is a huge difference between these different spectrums. You could introduce a technology in the hands of users that are secure in terms of functionality, but it's not trustworthy because it brings maybe some kind of questions about the human use of this technology. Would this technology respect human privacy, for example? Would it also respect issues around dual use on a general structure, amidst many other questions? Would it be transparent enough for the user to understand the implications of misuse in the future, as well as another question? So if we are bringing into market, and that's what we are having at the moment, we're systemizing actually, bringing untrusted models, technology models into the market. I don't want to just the blame here or the focus onto just AI technologies. I think we're living in an era where we are having a cascaded effect of negligence on trust issues from a wider technology lens perspective. And because at the moment AI technologies are being quite critical to many fields, mass fields actually, there is this kind of tipping points that we have to face. And one of those tipping points is how are we addressing trust as an opportunity maker rather than as a risk, I would say, amplifier in the market. Because if you just invested enough resources and not standardizing trust, because standardization is great. But if you standardized it, but it's not a mass de facto, I would say, enforced structure, to build in technologies that are trustworthy, that would not use unethical means of being developed against human use, not just being secure, as we have said, then I would say it's a grander moot point at the end of the cycle.
Such valid inputs. And I think just the point you made around it's not just about trust in AI, but the actual broader technology lens. There's so many things you could look at online safety in general. We haven't really mitigated the risks around that. And yet we're bringing AI into the elements. So how do we go back to those fundamentals as well? So.
And just to bring in the data points here, we have over, I think, 200 standards that are being developed globally since 2017 around AI, trust and security and safety. You can look at the UN Observatory of Data that are being developed around this. We have great stances from different jurisdictions, I think, that are being, championed by different actors across the field, either government or NGOs or sometimes industries that are focused on building trust ecosystem. But we have to ask ourselves, how holistic is this? Is it enforceable on all jurisdictions, on all type of technology that's related to AI that are being developed? Is it verifiable, not just by third users, but by the users themselves within those platforms? We know the EU, for example, developed their own AI regulation structure. We know China developed their own. We know the United States, other kind of different economies around the world developed their own regulation structures for AI that are ping-ponging in between different thematics. Some of them will focus on principles, some of them will focus on being detailed on penalties and regulation and statutory kind of analysis of fines that should be existing. And others will just build a leeway of, maybe interpretation of the different jurisdiction. But in all cases, we don't have enough evaluation methods that are quantifiable that can tell you this would actually push back major AI risks from the market.
Yeah. And do you see this, so you've mentioned this as a gap, right? The actual way in which we can test the systems as well. How do you think the UAE is adapting to this?
I think the UAE is taking great stance in addressing the elephants in the room and not just being a player which will maybe take the back seat into analyzing this technology. Don't forget, we are trying our best and we are, I think, gaining a good global respect on this and being front runners when it comes to the AI development efforts around the world. And when we're saying front runners, we want to be catalyst multipliers of opportunities. So the problem with the global implications of trust, that people, when they think of trust. They think of it as a risk, as a point that would hinder progress, will hinder innovation, maybe will send us back a few years into this evolution. What the UAE is trying to do is balance out the necessity of opening a room and a sandbox of a free innovation space to build up new solutions for AI, especially when it comes to use cases of adaptation and adoption in different markets, being financial, healthcare, aviation, logistics, and supply chain. And we have major AI applications that have been brought into the market, including financial solutions that have been announced in Dubai Future Forum, for example, in November 2025, and others with MasterCards. But in my opinion, we're trying to be flexible enough and agile to balance innovation with regulation that is necessary, that is also respectful of users' data. So we have a strong regulation strategy that has been put into the map for AI and data. We have a strong emphasis on the necessity of governance for cyber issue in AI on a very systematic level, on a federal level, but we also allowing a space of innovation through not institutionalizing every kind of strategy pillar that we develop into a regulation narrative. Because you don't need that on all spaces, in my opinion.
I agree. And it's about making trust that enabler to innovation as well, and really bringing out the best of it when users actually go to adapt
Exactly.
that. As an expatriate of the UAE for the last 20 years almost, I'm just loving watching the UAE take a front-running role in the AI space. It's just incredible the strides ahead, both in sort of adapting regulation, but also in enhancing technologies. And the platform and the ecosystems being built here are just incredible to watch, and real enabler for the rest of the world as well, and a place to watch for the rest of the world. So I want to balance out your experience. I mean, you've built ecosystems across various different industries as well. What defines a trustworthy AI product in emerging markets?
I think the ability to build security on the go, which something is we don't have, build security as well as part of the DNA of your technology, and as well make sure that it stays agile and adaptive. These are very difficult features to just make sure that you build around your model. Because if you want a security as part of your DNA, then you have to immediately restructuring your architecture when you develop a product of AI around encryption, safety first. Safety first is the hardest gain of the question. Addressing every aspect and scenario of threat modeling that would exist around cyber issues of your AI system. But then at the end of this, you have to be able not to just build the model to address today's issues when it comes around security, but also tomorrow's issue. What if I design the whole system to understand the security and risk narrative in a very predefined manner? If I want to scope it up later on and go beyond the current narrative, what are my options? Would the system be able to do it on themselves in a very automative way? And this is a field of study that we're working on self-adaptation of AI models, that we can understand the risk and evolve into trusted status in a mean of time. It's easy when you're doing it on a functional perspective. Okay, you check the algorithms for mistakes and for issues and errors, and then you fix these things. But if it's not algorithmic, if it's logical kind of risks, if it's risks against, for example, children on the platforms that might be abused by other targets who are developing chatbots to build specific narratives, then there comes a counter, I would say, algorithm or a counter ecosystem that you have to develop to address these issues, which is not bad. I think this opens for us, from investment perspective, a new dimension of building a micro economy around building these trusted model and then introducing into the market this kind of parental approved AI models for children, specifically when we are talking about that use case, but also about every type of a system. And this is what we see today. We see that there is a mix in between regulatory and trust sandboxes that we build around those technologies, and a mix in between the trade sandboxes that are being developed. So people want to understand, how do you build something that is bulletproof against certain risks that exist, being financial risk, cyber risk, security risk, trust risk, and as well being competitively economic in the market. Don't forget that we're talking about a market that is today is less than $2 trillion of investment, but have a high growth of trying to achieve $15 trillion of investment by less than 6 years, 5 years into the future. And we are not even there. There are many speculations into the market saying, okay, it's a bubble here in investment. No, it's a multiplier in that investment. So you have to build your business case and your trustworthiness case hand in hand and make sure that they stay economically viable, or I would say ethically viable, in the middle of the volatility of everything happening around us, the volatility of what we addressed initially. It's a solution of technology that's built on a pyramid of technology that doesn't have a governance infrastructure that is globally imposed at the moment, except in certain standards. We have NIST standards, we have ISO standards, we have other compliance structures, but we have proved day in and day out that if you were compromised on those systems, you cannot tell the threat actors, oh, wait a minute, my product is standardized, you cannot attack it. They can attack it in seconds while you spend 3 years building a standard. This is also another point of conversation. How can we build an, as we say it in the point that we said around agility of building secure trust solutions. If someone can attack me in a few seconds, can I build a countermeasure in a few seconds as well and automate it? The opportunity market exists in AI for this. But also, can I build the standards around it and regulation structures in a few seconds and enforce it in the whole value chain structure? If I'm talking about vendors and suppliers and as well people who are using this technology, then if I'm building a patch to this and standard to this, can I enforce it across all these different bodies? I think we have the technology for this. We have blockchains, we have smart contracts, we have these networks of trust that obsoletely existed in the past, but we did not update them with these new methodologies. I mean, there is a lot of room in the market for developing, I would say, new models of trust and bring them in a very viable, profitable manner into market to showcase to global economy that when you build a technology, it's not just about consumption race. Let's bring it to market to the fastest we can and beat someone else the fastest we can, because we want to give them something that looks cool, that can help you generate videos, generate images, and everything else in between, but it's not secure enough. It's not good enough.
How can you collaborate but also bring out that competitive edge as well? It's quite a difficult balance between the two.
Yeah.
So how do you see AI reshaping the future of mobility, energy, and let's add in there child protection, because I know you've touched on this a bit, and what investment is behind these shifts?
I think there is like global investments that are quite high around this. I mean, there is 70% increment of investment in global energy, especially after the AI conversation, right? We know that, AI systems today consume over 1 to 2% of a global power, global electricity power, which is quite huge. With the current push on the different stack requirement for AI, it requires data, it requires hyperscalers, it requires different computing structures that are not neuromorphic. They're quite heavy in the consumption of energy. We've seen a global move, even in ADIPEC, which is one of the global forums in the world that are discussing the frontier of energy. We've seen the conversation around energy changes and people saying that if we today want to discuss energy capacity globally, we need to consider the expansions that are happening on hyperscalers that are nudged by AI kind of mass adaptation in the world. I think there has been as well a study that says for lithium consumption around the world that would go through different automation system, different AV structure, different AI system. Maybe in the future, we will have 5% more increment around lithium, for example, and you can scale that to all other minerals. Copper, for example, 3 times consumption higher. We'll face a 3 times demand, I would say, rise on it globally, and many other minerals. Conversation that started with, let's develop a system that goes into different markets now is ended up by us discussing how much of energy capacity can we afford on different grid. Maybe every city around the world is supposed to develop mixed grid infrastructure and count on only a single grid deployment. How clean is our grid? What type of mineral did we use actually to generate the energy structure that we have and the whole stack of our AI system? Did we actually address water reuse? Because most of those AI structures would have to use cooling environments. Those cooling environments, they're water heavy. In a global narrative where we have water scarcity model on use, I mean, fresh water around the world is less than 30 to 15%. And only a slim of that percentage are being used in cities around the world. So en masse, we are using desalinated water. So this desalinated water has to go through different structure of treatment. Even if it's used within the system, how can we make sure we, in cities that has water scarcity models around the world, how can we as well address giving them this kind of cutting edge technology with no problems around it? So yes, I think the quick answer towards this, I don't think in 5 years or 10 years we will have this conversation with the same cycle of innovation. We're disrupting the cycle of innovation. People today are considering developing micro energy systems around different global jurisdictions that are sensitive towards the DNA of minerals of that jurisdiction. You don't have to develop energy that is universal in use, like lithium, for example, based energy systems or other energy systems that are based on other kind of technologies that could be used in every jurisdiction around the world, because this places a high demand on one source of mineral that might not exist in other jurisdiction. So let's design something that fits in the fabric of a region, of a continent, of a jurisdiction, and make it work in a much more economic scale and in a precision, I would say, manner. And AI would help you do this in the future. And we're talking about massive cuts of introducing different chips, for example. This is the disruption innovation cycle. So we're disrupting the way we develop energy. We're disrupting the way we're developing chips and semiconductors, because people are saying, why are we using normal streams of semiconductors? Maybe we could use memory-based technologies and chips for this, because it's cheaper. Cheaper on what? Cheaper in space, it's cheaper in energy. And people are even taking the conversation higher and saying, let's use nomomorphic because it's faster and cheaper. It's like 5 times cheap maybe on energy. And on this, when you go through this paradigm, you're disrupting the cycle away from the current conversation. Because when you look at how quantum is being built, not just AI and quantum technologies, they're not being built around the same, I would say, stack of new energies. So then we're developing a new niche of a backbone that could be scaling up not just one industry, but multiple micro, I would say, advanced industries on the parallel. That's as well about mobility. How would it disrupt mobility and trust around mobility? This is a hard question, because mobility today is one of the most resistant infrastructure to change. You're used to building mobility infrastructure around the world, being shipping or even micro-mobility systems that we see them on the rise today, aviation or mass car and vehicles infrastructure around the world in a specific manner that is quite dependent on the way we generate energy and the way we are relying on energy sources in different jurisdiction or mass kind of this, I would say, assimilated energy demand in the world. And then we tend to develop cars that are designed into that system, or vehicles that are designed into that system. Not anymore for all regions. Again, certain regions are trying to experiment with new batteries infrastructure, new storage elements for batteries that would be lighter. And maybe we could use at one point of time hydrogen across the value chain of mobility, for example. But is it doable at the moment? It's quite expensive. Not accessible to major players in the market, heavy in the prototypes of new batteries that you are actually presenting to markets. So people are pushing it back to the heavy industries on mobility, like, for example, for shipping. But we've seen prototypes in lead countries on this race, like China, for example, which are building this kind of massive plants that would do desalination. And at the same time, as part of desalination, you have a byproduct as hydrogen, and you use that hydrogen to feed in the batteries, and you use the batteries to charge the drones, all in one compact solutions. But is it still beating the market numbers in terms of hours of charging, capacity, flying hours, all of this? Not yet. We have the prototypes, it's being improved. And most of the systems we are seeing around the world are moving toward this compatible precision-based solutions that are efficient for industry, for regions, for people. And it will be quite of an interesting world to live in, to see these microsystems being developed across band and making it easy to, at a point of time, to have this mass product design in the hands of the mass rather than the few. Because at the moment, it's only people who have accessing to R&D at the early stage, or having accessing to resources, being energy, being disruption, being finance. Finance is a great resource today. We've seen countries who are leading in this race, who might not have a high R&D infrastructure, but they have a financing infrastructure to push in a ripple effect across the world and making sure that competing powers still have capital to compete on building and keeping the momentum and building these technologies across the world.
Yeah. That's great insights. And there's a lot of opportunity that you've just mentioned there. And it's really exciting future that we can see in the age of AI. So I've got one signature closing question for you. What's one belief about AI and trust that you hold, even if it's unpopular?
Mass technology should be 100% trusted. Mass technology that is being placed in the hand of any user should be 100% trustworthy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of AI Trust Talks. If you found it valuable, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with anyone who might be interested. Join the conversation with us on Instagram at AI_trust_talks and follow along on Spotify, Amazon, YouTube. Your engagement helps us to keep these important discussions alive. From all of us here at AI Trust Talks, thank you for being part of this journey. Until next time, keep building trust where it matters the most.